What's up, folks? So I missed last week and didn't get a chance to talk about Moon Knight episode 3. So today I'm going to be giving my thoughts on both episodes 3 and 4 of Moon Knight. Full disclosure, there will be spoilers as in my previous two videos. So I guess that's about it. Let's get into it. So Moon Knight episode 3 was actually pretty good. I've noticed something with this show that may not keep with the entire series, but it seems like every single episode is like a different genre while maintaining the same tone. First episode was a psychological mystery where Steven didn't know that Mark was there or anything about Khonshu and like he kept blacking out and everything. Episode 2 was a weird supernatural exposition dump with like this weird Bourne Identity style where like people were hunting him down and everything. And then episode 3 is just a full-blown superhero adventure. And now episode 4 is this Tomb Raider-esque thing with psychological breakdown towards the end of the episode, and I thought that was pretty interesting. I've noticed like each episode has like a different kind of take, and it's working so far, but not perfectly. This series isn't perfect, but I'm still really enjoying it. But episode 3, for the most part, is just, it starts off Mark is hunting down some people, and Steven's fighting him back, so they keep blacking out, and Mark's just like, you're causing problems, I need to focus, I need to do this, and that's when we get the first reveal of there is a third personality hidden inside Mark and Steven that they don't know about, and this guy is extremely dangerous. He murders two of the guys that Mark was hunting down to get information from, and he doesn't say anything. He doesn't interact with either of them. He just immediately takes control of the body, kills the two people, and moves on, and they're both just like, did you do that? No, I didn't do that. Did you do that? And it's like, no, I didn't do that. So who did that? And I found it kind of odd that they just kind of gloss over it. Just for me, if I had a split personality that I interacted with constantly and then all of a sudden I blacked out and then spoke to my other personality and they're like, yeah, bro, I didn't do that. And if you didn't do that, then who did it? I would have more of an issue and be way more concerned than these two are over the fact that somebody just took control of them and murdered two people. But hey, that's just me. I'm not Moon Knight. I can't, dictate what my priorities are unless I was them. So, episode continues, and, Mark meets up with Layla, and they start working together to find Ammit's tomb, and that leads them to insert random rich guy villain number 47. And they go there and leads to a really cool fight sequence. I really like the fight sequence with Moon Knight. I was at first a little disappointed because I was thinking Moon Knight was going to be just a guy in a suit and he was going to be like a little bit crazy. But I kind of dig the fact that they did give him some powers because he's not overpowered, but he's also not super weak. Like, he can't go toe to toe with Thor, but also it's not like a dude with a gun is just gonna take him out when he's all suited up. So I can dig that. I can vibe with that a lot. I really did like that fight sequence. It was pretty cool. Steven and Mark going back and forth, trying to handle things in their own ways, eventually leaving Mark to just go full-blown Moon Knight and take out everybody. I thought that was really cool. They get the map to locate Ammit's tomb, and that leads to a very beautiful sequence at the end of the episode where Khonshu just moves the sky. I really like that. It was really cool. I thought it was great to see. I love the emotional development of Khonshu. It's just Khonshu being a character is great, because at first I was thinking that in Moon Knight, Khonshu was going to be, ambiguous. You wouldn't know if Khonshu was real or not, that it would just be this mental thing that Mark has that he's like, I worship Khonshu, and it's like, okay, but are you just delusional, or is Khonshu an actual god that's dictating your actions? But they went with the full god route, and I do like the fact that they gave Khonshu a large stake in the show. And you see him around a lot. He interacts with Mark and Steven, and you see him use his powers, and I do enjoy seeing Khonshu a lot, because I think he's probably the best character in the show. And if it's not the best character, he's at the very least my favorite character in this entire show of Moon Knight so far. So Khonshu, he has this really emotional moment. Like, it was just a very brief line where they're just like, well, we can't use this star map because it was made like 2,000 years ago, and the Earth shifts so the stars aren't in the same spot anymore, and it's just like, we can't fix it unless we're able to see what the night sky looked like 2,000 years ago. And Khonshu just like very somberly and emotionally is just like, I remember every night. I was like, oh, wait a minute, hold on a second. Damn, Khonshu, why you making me feel emotions, bro? Like, you ain't gotta say it like that. You ain't have to deliver that line with so much passion, but I'm here for it. And then, they moved the sky. I thought that was really great. Only gripe with episode 3 is probably like the Council of the Gods meeting is that was just stupid. Because it's just, Khonshu was just like a petulant child speaking to the other gods. They're all like calm and collected, talking, and he's just like, every time that he has a sentence. Like, whenever the other gods took over their avatars, it was very like, hello, yes, I'm talking to you. And then Khonshu was like, he's just like full rage screaming every time he talks, and I'm like, okay, this isn't helping your case. And also, all of those gods are extremely incompetent. It's just, Harrow showed up to Egypt with an entire city worth of people for a dig to find Ammit, and it's like, nobody noticed that. Like, nobody noticed this dude showed up with an entire city's worth of people and is digging in the middle of the desert. I just, like, I don't know. It just seems weird to me that Khonshu needed to try and prove that Harrow was trying to find Ammit, and they're just like, no, he's not. And it's like, so what is he doing in Egypt then? What is he, like, digging all this stuff for? It was very weird and unorganized. It felt like they needed to, like, push the plot forward. They needed an explanation for why Khonshu was going to get apprehended by all the gods and give, Mark a little bit of information to start looking for Ammit outside of the Scarab. But I feel like they've executed it way better than they did with that council meeting. However, that is the way it is now, and it's a very weak point of the episode. And then finally, at the end of the episode, before I step into episode 4, is Khonshu gets sealed away in prison. He gets turned into a stone little figure statue, and they lock him away. And at least in episode 4, which before I started watching episode 4, I had a concern that this episode was going to take a decline because Khonshu wouldn't be there. Khonshu's interactions with Mark and Steven amplify the episode. Their dynamic is very energetic, you could say. It makes it very interesting to see what's going on. It keeps me engaged in the episode, and I thought the fact that maybe since Khonshu was going to be there anymore, that it was going to be a little bit concerning about how everything was going to play out. But this episode was okay. It wasn't my favorite episode, but it definitely wasn't the worst. I'd still say the first episode of the series is still the best in accordance with all 4 that are out right now. I'd say episode 4 is probably 3rd in my ranking. Episode 2 is at the bottom just because although it was entertaining to watch, I don't like exposition dumps unless they're very well executed, and that just didn't land for me in that episode. So, episode 4, we have this little cute Tomb Raider adventure with Steven and Layla, and they bond closer. There's very cute, funny moments between Mark and Steven because Steven's growing closer to Layla, and Mark doesn't like that, so he's getting pissed off. And then when Steven has a really awkward kiss with Layla, which that was hard to watch, Steven just cold cocks him when he lets his guard down. I thought that was great. I meant Mark cold cocks Steven when his guard is down. Granted, this is a little nitpick thing. It's just Harrow had like a small militia, like an entire town's worth of people when he broke into Ammit's tomb. But when they get to the dig site, it's completely empty, and they go into the tomb, and there's like nobody there. There's no one in the entire tomb. They're able to just walk around freely. They meet one supernatural mummy that tries to kill them. Well, technically 2, because Layla fought one by herself later. And like, I was expecting, because they build it up in the episode as like, hey, there's going to be a bunch of people here. This is a suicide mission. Like, it's going to be super dangerous. And then they get there and it's just silence. There's nobody there except one mummy, and then they go through everything perfectly fine. They get to where they need to get to, they get what they need, and then after all that is over, that's when Harrow and his people show up, and it's like, I don't understand why this was a suicide mission, because it's just, there was no threat. There was no threat this entire time. The tomb itself was a threat because it was super old and there was no path to really travel, and you just need to figure out the puzzle, but it's just, there was no threat to what they built it up to be. If they were just like, okay, we're gonna sneak into the tomb at night when Harrow's people are asleep or whatever, that would have been different. But the fact that they're like, yeah, we're gonna go there, it's a suicide mission, and Harrow's people are gonna be all over, and it's gonna be really dangerous down there, and then they get there and it's just nothing. There's just nobody in there. I was like, whatever. I was just like, okay, so alright, this is not as thrilling as they made it seem. It's not as dangerous as they propped it up to be in the show. And then that leads into Harrow having a conversation with Layla where he tries to get some dissension in the ranks between her and Mark, which ends up leading to nowhere because Mark ends up getting shot by Harrow not even 5 minutes later. So it went nowhere. It's just like, hey, Mark probably killed your dad. And then she's like, did you kill my dad, Mark? And he's like, no, I didn't, but my partner did. And I kind of felt bad about it. And then I fell in love with you, but I still couldn't bring myself to tell you. And then she got upset about Mark not telling her all this and them meeting over the fact that he couldn't save her father. And then Harrow shows up, shoots Mark, and then kind of just cuts away from that to the interesting part that everyone's talking about at the end of the episode is that Mark ends up in a mental institution and everything around him has been turned into a fake thing. Like everyone that you've seen throughout the course of the entire season has been turned into a mental patient. Khonshu is just a drawing that someone else has made in the asylum. His fish is there. His ball and chain that he's had connected to his leg to stop him from jumping off the bed is connected to his wheelchair. Like everything is there, and Mark is just like, what's going on right now? Like Harrow is there. He's wearing glasses. He's got a mustache. His hair's tied back. He's, a physical therapist, a psychiatrist at this mental institution, and Mark's just like, what? Where's Steven? What's going on? As he tries to escape and get away, he runs into a room with a sarcophagus, and I both do and don't like what they did with this. They set up this fact that it's a weird mental institution where everything from the show is there, and they're trying to trick Mark into believing that everything is fake. I think this was done really well in the show Legion, because if you don't know about Legion, that's another Marvel series that was on FX about the son of Charles Xavier, and he didn't know that he was a mutant with massive psychic abilities, so he was in a mental institution living out his life because he didn't know what he was capable of and how that was affecting him and everything. And the first season really plays into that and makes you feel like, is this guy crazy or is he a mutant? And what's going on with him? Like, how does this play into the larger scheme of things? And I think that was done really well. This set that up, and then it immediately abandoned it, which I'm happy it did, because it's like, as a fan watching the show, I know he's not actually in a mental institution. He's actually a superhero, and this is fake. But also, it's like, if you were gonna set this up, commit to it, at least for half an episode. But they committed to it for all of 5 minutes, and then he's like, oh hey, I found Steven locked in a sarcophagus. Okay, cool, I found him. We're two separate people now, we'll figure that out later. And they try to escape, and as they're escaping, they run past the third personality that's been teased since the first episode of the show, and he is very angry. He's very aggressively trying to get out of that sarcophagus. And again, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I don't understand why the two of them do not find it anywhere necessary to figure out who that third personality is, because they're walking past the room with the sarcophagus in it. Mark literally just freed Steven from a sarcophagus, which indicates that his personalities are trapped inside of those sarcophagi. I don't know if that's the plural of sarcophagus, but I'm gonna go with that. So when the two of them walk past the third one, shouldn't they, consider like, wait a minute, I just freed you from a sarcophagus. You are one of my personalities. We inhabit the same body. There is another sarcophagus. Do we have a third personality? I mean, that would explain that weird moment where we killed people and neither of us know what happened. Like, they have no urgency in figuring out who this third person is that's inhabiting their body. And it bothers me that they don't have that, because it feels like something the script is doing for it to be a reveal in the show rather than the characters addressing it as a natural part of the progression of everything that's happening to them. And I don't like that. But then we get to the final part of the episode, which very much took me off guard. Is they open the door and there is a hippopotamus Egyptian goddess with a very dainty voice, and I was just like, okay. I don't know how to process this because I wasn't expecting it, and it's here, it's in front of me, but what exactly? What? I don't know how to process what I'm looking at right now. So she's just there. I'm like, bet. This is how this episode's ending. I don't know who this is, what they're here for, but this is how we're doing this. Okay, cool. That's the end of episode 4 of Moon Knight. And that ending was both good and bad because it was a little rushed because they didn't commit to what they set up, but also the ending was pretty cool and interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the future. I'm curious how this episode holds up on rewatching now that I know how the episode itself ends, but I'll save that for after I finish all 6 episodes because I feel like rewatching it now isn't going to do it justice, given I don't know what's going to come after this and if it plays into that very well. Like, isolated as a single episode, I feel like I wouldn't enjoy it as much as I would rewatching any of the other episodes. But yeah, that's Moon Knight's episode 3 and 4. Again, had some stuff to do last week, so I wasn't able to review episode 3, when I wanted to, but now I've got both of them in this nice collective video that hopefully people see. So that'll be the end of this video on my thoughts. I'll be hopefully back next week to do episode 5. If not, then I'll definitely be back the final week to do episodes 5 and 6, but I doubt that, but don't hold me to that. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm the Innocent Villain, and remember folks, stay innocent until proven villainous, and I'll catch you in the next one.